Hi, I'm Dennis Weiss. Welcome to Why Like Ike. We're here in celebration of the 29th of January, Kansas Day, 34th state, 34th President, Dwight David Eisenhower, and we have a couple local celebrities to help us appreciate Eisenhower today. Emma, Annie, Bathurst, they're my neighbors.
Yes.
But they're star performers fresh from the Washington tour. So we want to fill people in on what that is. So you girls got to go to Washington to sing at the Eisenhower Memorial groundbreaking ceremony, and that is just so cool. So tell us how that happened.
It was a really neat opportunity. I got a phone call. I was actually on a college visit, and this lady called me up. She's like, "Hey, do you want to sing for this service in Washington, D.C.?" And I was like, sure, I'm interested, whatever. And kept getting more phone calls, and one thing led to another. I said, I'll go if I drag my sister along. So my sister, mom, and I, we all flew into D.C., and that next morning we sang, and it was a really neat opportunity to meet so many people. And
what did you sing?
We sang America the Beautiful.
America the Beautiful. So Annie, you live in the middle of America the Beautiful, the amber waves of grain. My wife moved here from New Hampshire. She missed the ocean, and the wheat came up, and I said, honey, amber waves of grain.
There you go.
You live in the middle of that.
Exactly.
That whole song, it was neat to sing that because it represents America, but also Kansas, yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
From this hometown.
So, you're 17, about to be 18, if I'm correct. You're 14, about to be 15.
Almost 16.
15, about to be 16.
Yes.
Okay. So you've lived here all of your lives. I know you're both good students because, well, you're my neighbors. What do you know about Eisenhower, and how is it relevant to your life? This Why Like Ike. So there's no specific answer to that question. Well, so I'm going to give you the first answer. Got you to Washington, D.C. to sing the America the Beautiful. That's pretty relevant to two Bathurst girls. Yeah. So
throughout our whole lives, we have seen how much his legacy has impacted like us and America and Abilene, but also just our nation as a whole. From a young age, we spent our summers here at the Eisenhower Center. We dress up like boys, portraying the Eisenhower family, and we tend the garden here and get to visit with the visitors. And I'm pretty sure we did that boyhood tour probably 30 times or
really?
so.
We could give the tour to, to the visitors.
So we at a young age, we could see his humble beginnings he had here in Abilene, and then it was neat to be able to go over to D.C. and sing America the Beautiful and be able to represent Abilene as a part of his legacy that he'll have there in D.C.
So I know that you are in the Abilene Singers. Are you as well, Annie?
No.
Okay, so, but I know last year the Abilene Singers went to New York City about this time of year and performed at Carnegie Hall.
Yep.
So do you use that as a line to your resume? You know, where'd you last perform? You just throw
Carnegie
that up?
Hall, D.C. Pretty neat experience.
Okay, so here's my story about you and Eisenhower. Dwight David Eisenhower worked in the garden for real. He grew up here, much in an agricultural community, same as it is today, right?
Yes.
So, and he went off to be the man who gave the world a second chance at freedom, 5-star general, twice elected president. So what are your hopes and dreams from Abilene in an Eisenhower way?
Well, if things align to take us to DC, then I think, I don't know, just kind of opens up your perspective a little bit to dream. I don't know exactly where the future is, but
that's a nice thing about dreams. You don't have to know exactly where the future is, right? Yeah.
But even just this opportunity has both boosted our intentions about singing together, and it's opened up other opportunities, and we're both confident because if we can sing in front of 300 or 400 people, then we can kind of do whatever.
300 or 400. Last I knew it was on YouTube and Facebook and all over the world.
Maybe, but yeah.
Okay, so Annie, you're the young one.
Yes.
As you traveled with your older sister and walked up there, she said you're confident. How much confidence did you have without your older sister?
Emma is like a part of me now. Everything, all of my firsts have happened with Emma.
Yeah.
First time on an airplane with Emma. First time out of the country with Emma. First time to, I don't know. It seems like everything. So I don't know if I'd been able to do without her, because.
And I wasn't gonna do without her. So that's what we drag
That's
her
great.
on,
That's
so,
great.
yeah.
So there's a reason I asked that question other than just human interest. You know, the Eisenhower family, 6 boys, they were a very close family as well. You know they depended on each other. I've heard some stories about that. You know, they were very defensive of one another, and as they worked their way through life's problems and served with each other. Well, this is another Abilene story. How many children in your family?
Well, there's 6 of us total.
There you go. So, very cool story, I think, anyway. All right. So, I also know that you started your schooling life at home with your mother and father. And I think that's a great story to tell about it with Ike behind us.
Yep. We, first 8 years of our schooling career, our mom taught us. So we had the same teacher for 8 years, is what I always tell my friends.
You must have liked her okay.
Yeah.
Didn't have much of a choice. Our dad was our principal. And
Yeah,
our
it
mom
was kind of
our
rough
teacher.
life.
Yeah. Well, I've been a principal too. I know how that works.
Yeah. So through that, we could actually kind of be a part of our dad's farming lifestyle. We'd go get our school done and head over to him. And I think that's part of our relationship, how it's been so tight with our siblings, is because we spent so much of the day with them when we were young. And so.
So I don't know where you were, but I do recall your grandpa calling my house and asking if my son could go over and drive the tractor trailer while they picked up hay, and the reason he wanted him to do that is because you were gone somewhere.
Yeah.
That happens a lot more now. He's got to find the younger cousins or brothers to fill in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's a great story with Eisenhower behind us. So, you know, people say, think about Dwight David Eisenhower. Many people, their knowledge is of president, general. Well, there's a whole life story before that.
Yeah.
And you girls are sitting here and I'm saying to the camera, we're still raising people who can go out and be great and do great things, and we're pretty much raising them the same way.
And that's just what makes it so so much to like look up to him as a president and a 5-star general, but also as a person who grew up in Abilene, small town. He didn't have anything
south of the tracks.
South of the tracks, he didn't have anything.
Well, you are a pro.
great.
You even knew south of the tracks. That's good.
We knew all of it.
You were on. You
we
were
knew
the
all the
tour.
information. Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yep.
It is. I find it inspirational. Great leaders for me are a thing. I just they're so needed in the world, and no matter how good a leader you have today, you have to replace them sooner or later. So we always need new great leaders. Is there any reason it can't be one of the Bathurst girls? No is the answer to that question. No. It just depends what your dream leads you to. But things like representing Eisenhower by singing "America the Beautiful" at the dedication of his memorial in Washington, D.C., that's a stake in the sand that you can choose where to go from.
And even to meet his family there that we got to see, we got to see and hear what they had to say.
Yeah.
And
it was very well done. And I think coming from Abilene, sometimes we take for granted that he chose to have his presidential library and museum here in Abilene. And he because that was his beginning, that was his humble beginning. And talking with a few of the people there, they're like, well, we want Abilene to be represented in this. And so just that we could represent was such a neat honor that they would ask us to go over there. And I will never forget that experience there. And just
well, I think I can say thank you to you too for representing us there, right? You represented all of us who love Eisenhower and live in Abilene, and you did a first-class job of representing us too, and that's always a pretty good thing to be able to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so Eisenhower test.
Oh no.
Yes. So what is your favorite fun fact that you learned about Eisenhower, whether you were over at the boyhood home or in school or any other time? What's your favorite thing about Dwight David Eisenhower? Emma?
Well, I'd say, from what I know from the garden, how he was best friends with his brother Edgar, and they'd play baseball together. And what's my favorite?
I
Putting me on
like.
the spot.
That's
Yeah.
okay. On the spot's good.
I
You gave an
liked-
answer.
I like the cookies that his mom made.
Oh,
the,
really?
the original recipes that we would give to the visitors in the lemonade stand, and they were pretty good.
I'd say for me, like, just the fact that he was such a hard worker, because reading just different things to be familiar with him, and how he'd have his portion of the garden, and he'd sell that around the neighborhood, and that was just kind of his first beginning. So that kind of the characteristics that built him as a president, as a humble leader, and it was just something simple and small that he did, but it kind of went with him, and he achieved success from
So
even something
because you're
like that.
going on forward in the world doing things, when an interviewer asks you a hard question, feel free to ask them one back. That
So
kind of
what's your
level.
favorite?
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So mine is how he could deal with difficult people. And I think the preparations leading up to D-Day and between the British, the French, the Russians.
Everybody
Yeah, there's
Everybody has a different opinion.
I am constantly amazed at how he sustained not only his health, but his vision to lead in those circumstances. It hasn't been done since, and it wasn't done before. So the ability to truly lead that coalition while sitting at the table that we have on display in this museum, to me, is a once in a millennia human act. I think you have to go back to Moses to find somebody who
He
had
was
such a
pretty
task.
amazing leader.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you both sing, obviously. Are you in the choral group? You're
I
not
am.
in singers, but in
Singers
the
is
choral
juniors
group.
and
What about band?
yes.
Band, yep.
So, because we're in Abilene, what do you think of the Abilene music program, band program?
I'm just so beyond blessed for the people that are in my lives that in the music department. Both Mr. Tompkins and Mrs. Whiteley, they have just been such an encouragement to everyone in those programs. And like Mrs. Whiteley got us hooked up with the music, and she has encouraged us. And it was kind of like, at first it was kind of a big scary event to go over to DC, but she just, she's always like supported me. She's both built our confidence, and singers is one of my favorite classes of the day. Just to be able to use my voice, and it's just a really relaxing thing, and something that I've done basically my whole life. So it's natural to me. So
Yeah. Annie?
Yeah, and Mr. Tompkins and Mrs. Whiteley, they both worked so hard for the program. I mean, they both have very successful programs, and it doesn't just happen by saying, like, there he is. I mean, they have to put in a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of their own investment to make it how it is.
So that was not a random question. Before we did this interview, we shot the interview with the executive director, Don Hammett, which you met out in the lobby a little bit ago. And one of the things we talked about in that show was how the Eisenhower Presidential Library Museum and Boyhood Home helps other organizations in our community, lifts them up. There's a true partnership that works across the way. And I wanted to ask you that personal question so you could illuminate that you didn't go alone to Washington, D.C.
Nope.
You went with the support of Mrs. Whiteley and Mr. Tompkins and all of the history of that program. So that's important to this facility, that they continue to have the opportunity to work together with other organizations.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty easy just to say the Bathurst girls went and sang America the Beautiful, but
Well, it was
really,
it's so much more than that. Well, because even our investment that we spent here when we were younger, and being around with the people of the museum and spending summers in the gardens, that was one thing, but also just our friends and family that were encouraging us to go over there. And yes, Mrs. Whiteley and Mr. Tompkins, there were so many people that were there supporting us the whole way. So
rarely is is there a singularity nature of success like that? Rarely. It's not that there's not, maybe once in a while, but everybody has help from somebody. It's the trick for a community, which is why we film these things, a greater community of the world here, is to figure out what works. And Eisenhower is offering so much in lots of ways, but having your faces on camera, the Bathurst family, to make that link, so when this program is all over Facebook and YouTube and you're sending it to all your friends and all of that, is to remind all of us the importance of, you didn't go alone. You went with Eisenhower, you went with Mr. Tompkins, you went with Mrs. Whiteley, and the music
and the
programs.
whole Abilene as a whole, hopefully.
Even those days in the garden working, I'll bet that was when your mom said, guess what, girls? You're going to go pretend to be boys and work in the garden of Eisenhower. And I bet you thought, oh boy, another day in the field.
What would it lead you to? Yeah, what would it lead you to? Yep.
Yeah, well, that's a healthy perspective, what things can lead you to. All right, so because we love to divert on when we talk about things, and you're my neighbors. So what's the world going to lead you to, Emma?
Oh, I don't know yet, but I cannot wait to find it out.
Yeah.
It's gonna, life is gonna change even in a year, because I'll hopefully be off to college. And
Annie's
so
going to miss you.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're gonna be a little more separated than normal. So.
What about you, Annie? What's your heart have in it today?
I think for the future, I'm gonna first figure out how to get along without Emma, and then
and her clothes.
Exactly. And then I don't know. I guess I'll just have to see, but I know this change is happening soon, so it's gonna be good.
Yeah. Well, you know, the people who really have to worry are mom and dad.
Yeah, what are they gonna do with that?
Yeah, I can tell you that's not as much fun as it looks like on TV.
Yeah.
You know, as kids go down the driveway and they're, you know, that's not a lot of fun. I don't imagine for your family it'll be any different. I can't imagine that Jeff and Charity will be there cheering when you go down. They'll be cheering for you, but not the fact you're gone, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, more Eisenhower stuff. So, you're young people. At the age you are, Dwight David Eisenhower was asking himself that very question, and probably his mom or dad, he probably wasn't on TV being asked the question, but somebody was asking them, what are you going to do with your life? He had a pretty clear answer on what he wanted to do. But gosh, can you imagine? We look at him from all the success he had, but look at the hills he had to climb to get there.
Oh yeah.
So much.
And his at West Point and you know everything there, he just worked hard and people recognized that.
Organizational skills, I think he's a great example to young people to find out what you're good at and do that.
Yeah.
And grow.
Take your gifts
It
and
doesn't have to
talents.
be one thing, but it has to be something.
Yeah.
What's Emma good at, Annie?
Many things. She has a musical side to her. She is a great leader. I can tell sometimes a little too controlling, but she's a great leader.
Older sisters are born leaders.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about Annie?
Annie she's a great servant, which probably is why we get along all the time. She works hard at everything she does. She has a heart that wants to give and nurture other people, just helping and stuff. Very helpful person.
Well, I am confident that the man on the picture behind us would be proud to know that you too, with those qualities, were sent to represent him and sing America the Beautiful. Isn't it really a beautiful place to live? Isn't where we live such a beautiful place to be in America's freedom?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. We know, because Eden Road's a pretty nice place. Eden Road, after all.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay. Well, Emma and Annie Bathurst have graced us with their presence today. They have represented us in Washington, D.C., and they represent us every day at Abilene High School, and I'm sure they will represent us well the rest of their life, wherever they go and whatever they do. Thanks for being here, girls.
Thank you
Yes,
for this
thanks.
Opportunity.
I've enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.
I'm Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Communications. We love Dwight David Eisenhower. I like Ike. So do you. Have a great day.
And now we have a special treat straight from Ike's hometown of Abilene, Kansas. Emma and Annie Bathurst, ages 17 and 15, are farm kids from Abilene, Kansas. They're involved in sports, marching band, and the 4-H. And they attended Ike's alma mater, Abilene High School. And during grade school, Emma and Annie volunteered at the Eisenhower Presidential Library and Boyhood Home, participating in having a history project in which they portrayed Ike's younger brothers. Did I mention Emma and Annie like to sing? Oh boy, they sure do. In fact, they've been singing together all their lives, and they've come all the way from Abilene, Kansas to Washington to sing just for us. Ladies and gentlemen, my great pleasure to introduce to you Emma and Annie.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties,